Oh boy, we got to do part two of Andkon arcade origins, right? Of what were the early 1990s influences in my childhood to make the Andkon arcade. That's what we're doing, right? So I'm just doing a voice recording here, and I'm looking at a bunch of pictures that I'm going to put in the video. So it's a weird kind of inception loop we're doing here because I'm just recording it, but I'm looking at the images that you will be looking at. So yesterday, okay, yeah, that's the picture. Yesterday we were talking about how I went to school on the left, the white building, and on the right, the building with the red signs and everything. That was the little corner store that had the Super Nintendo that we could never get into. And in the lobby of the school, I saw kids throwing these cartridges at each other from their Game Boys. And I was like, well, I just had a Game Boy and nothing else. Well, that's not entirely true. I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I had, click, 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 I had an Atari ripoff, a TV game, and it was Arabic. There were Arabic lettering on it, right? And it was basically an Atari 2600 ripoff, right? And this was early 1990s. This is right. This is exactly what it looked like, the game console. It's missing the joysticks, but you can see that in the picture. So it was something like this, and it had games like, oh, insert game here, horse game, I think it's called Stampede. So I'll put a little video of that, and hopefully it's just, I'm going to have my voiceover. Stampede or horse game where you had to kind of round up horses. Or you had to lasso them or something. The horse was faster than the things you were lassoing, right? And you don't want to run into them, I think. There was another one with a boxer that was a kind of top-down view. Again, but the point is these games were very, very primitive. They were very pixelated, right? All right. So, and I remember this was early 90s, and we had this thing in the TV back in the old country called Teletext. And let's have a picture of that. That's right. So basically, just you were using your TV remote, and you could just click onto something like this. And it was basically just an overlay on your TV, and you could see the numbers. HEDEC would be news, so you would press in 109, you'd get the news, and it was basically a bunch of menu pages, right? The next one, either weather 130. Now this was in all European countries. This is just the Hungarian one that was similar to it. Although you can see from the date, it was 2108, 19. I don't know what year it was, but this was, I don't know what year. It doesn't matter. This is basically what it looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I think they had it even under communism in the 80s. Can you believe this? But anyway, so this was like an index page, and you could just, it was a very primitive little browser. And especially in the old days, it was very pixelated. This is actually a little smoother than I remember. But I made the connection of, wait a second, if you have an Atari console or some kind of ripoff thereof, and you have these kind of pixelated games, and you have this pixelated news index thing, why don't you just get games into the TV? Why don't you do that? So I remember thinking this, and this was like the early 90s. Like, why can't they just put the games in here? Come on, that'd be a lot more fun than boring news and stuff like this, right? Right. So let me see. Yeah, so I actually did some research on it. The company that became America Online, AOL, the early 1990s dial-up thing, they actually started as a gaming company where you could hook up something called GameLine to your modem, and you could download games into your... Right, so I guess great minds think alike. So I think this was in the 80s, that you could actually look up that you could hook into your modem, because you already had if you had a telephone line, you could just hook it up here, and you could through your TV screen in America, you could download the games onto this device and play it. So it's like you already had something like this when I was thinking of, hey, just download it into the TV. Although again, GameLine was something that you had to purchase separately, apparently. But anyways, so that was another little precursor for me that, wait a second, why just feed boring news into the TV when you could do, you could do actual games, right? Just that looked as if you could do the pixelated Atari things and or you could do basically pixelated news stuff. Well, you could just do the games, right? Anyways, that's it, and that's it for now.